Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Terry Lee Shield. I am host here at Love School and on the channel at YouTube here. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is video 4 in a series all about healing bullying and rejection sensitivity wounds. If you haven't already, you probably will benefit from watching the first 3 videos. I will link the playlist where you can find them and the videos down below in the description. Please like and subscribe the channel and you'll be able to be notified of any future videos that we do, because we're going to be exploring more series like this that kind of dive into some of the wounds that we might have that contribute to us feeling a bit uncertain in the world, masking, looking for healing and recovery, which is what we do at Love School. In this video today, I am going to just give a bit of a summary about what I've covered, maybe touch on things that I feel have been really important in this series, in the recovery process, and invite you to dive in a little bit deeper with us. So this video is what we need to know to heal. And the core of any dynamic like this, any wound like this that's been playing out, part of how bullying keeps happening, how we keep being intimidated, targeted, all those words are from a lack. They're from a sense of being weak or being in a power dynamic that makes us less than someone else. It's natural and normal to go through life and have conflicts, to meet people that don't like us or that aren't aligned with us and that sort of thing. That's just part of life. But when we have certain wounds, we can then see ourselves from a place of lack that then cause these situations to become amplified and turn into bullying, harassment, intimidation, whatever it might be. One of the ways that we can disengage from that pattern, that dynamic, especially in certain relationships and things, is to remove our consent for that dynamic to keep happening. So practically, there are different ways that we can choose to enact that out. One of them I talked about is this: if it's happening in certain environments, stop putting yourself in that environment like that. And it's not hiding away. It's just choosing better for yourself, having stronger boundaries. Like, I'm not going to be in places and around people where there's constant drama, conflict, where I'm not wanted, where people are trying to overpower me. I am going to put myself in environments where I'm an equal, where I'm respected, where my contribution is valued. And that comes from within, because often we need to respect our own contribution. We need to value ourselves. We need to respect ourselves. And then that ripples into all of the areas of our life. And this is what we talk about at Love School. Everything is holistic. So we look at mind, body, spirit in ourselves. And we also look at environment and relationships. And what I've noticed is when we start to do things for ourselves, the ripple effect of that impacts so many areas of life. And this dynamic of bullying or rejection sensitivity is a relational wound, and it can be very strongly linked with external factors. But what I found for me, and what's I found for many people, it's because we've internalized that and made it about us. So in those scenarios, when something happens, our body is reacting, our nervous system is reacting, which makes us physically weaker. We begin to have thoughts, ideas, give meaning to these interactions. We develop subconscious beliefs, things like that, which then drive our emotional responses, which make us behave and react in certain ways. We find ourselves falling for impact. If we are coping by people pleasing, we might put ourselves in environments to please a friend or to go along with people, to be liked, to kind of avoid rejection, when actually then we end up in a whole environment with a whole other lot of people that we never actually wanted to be, especially if there's that strong intuition of I don't want to be there. And not following that is like a lack of self-respect. It's a lack of boundaries for ourselves to keep ourselves safe, to keep ourselves well, and respecting our own energy. And then in those environments, we're more likely to have relationships with people who aren't aligned with us, for us. So this whole kind of connected wound, if you like, starts from this place of being comfortable in ourselves, being authentic, and staying in our alignment. And what we kind of cover a lot in Love School is like, how do we do that in ourselves and allow that to ripple out into all areas of our life? We use the skills like shadow work, where we're starting to like unpack and understand ourselves better, to really see ourselves honestly and clearly, so that we can heal the wounds, heal the driving forces of the wounds that are there. Also, to understand ourselves better. So, to understand maybe it's what it is underneath all that that we're actually seeking. And then the life design part of it is where we then seek those things. So, we may need to nurture ourselves to heal some wounds and things. And how do we do that? By realigning with our authenticity. For example, we might be looking for connection and we found it with a bunch of people who drink a lot, and actually drinking isn't very good for us, or we don't make very good choices with it, or we feel shit the next day because of a hangover. So actually, maybe can we connect with somebody who likes and does something that doesn't have those negative impacts? Can we connect with somebody who has a mutual interest? Maybe you have a hobby that you like, that, and if you went to like a group and supported people and connected with people in that sort of group, you wouldn't have any negative consequences. You could make more friends. It might be other needs. And this is where like the life design comes in, where we then begin to like choose and realign with authenticity. There might be some exploration involved in this, because healing and recovery is not straightforward. It evolves and changes as we do. But understanding these like core skills helps us to, one, commit to a longer term change, which is going to be more beneficial. Not expect overnight success, not expect instant changes. But as we slowly gain more awareness of ourselves, of how to hold our boundaries, how to respond differently in different circumstances, keep our nervous system calm, interrupt unhelpful thoughts, get to the core of them and clear them out completely, work on our energy and our confidence, all this stuff starts to like build up, build up, build up. So we're not intentionally trying to avoid these situations. We're instead building up our strength and being able to be more resilient when the inevitable does happen. If we do have conflict or negative interactions with other people, natural contrast in the world, rejection is just redirection and protection. It's just all information that helps keep us on our track, on our path, so that we can find our authenticity, which then builds up our power and energy. And then people are much less likely to target us then. It's not always the case. Sometimes people target people just because they stand out and because they do like themselves and it highlights wounds in them. You know, there's nothing you can do to avoid it. What we can do is build up skills to be able to cope with it better, to still be able to be in your power and energy to enjoy it better. And that's what, to enjoy life better. And that's what I've learned. To be more resilient when these things come up, to be able to think clearer, because all of the brain fogginess, the nervous system responses have kind of been cleared. And if they do come up, I now know how to process them. It's all like a process of just constantly learning and adapting and evolving, so that we can enjoy our lives on our terms, not being impacted so much by other people, which is at the core of what these kind of wounds are. Often we learn at a young age to be safe, to survive, to went into survival mode. We create our entire identity around people pleasing, to try and get attention, affection, resources to keep ourselves alive, to keep us safe, to try and avoid harm. I had to clear all that as an adult so I could just show up and be myself, and realize that when I can show up like that, I am much more capable. I am much more able to meet my needs in life, interact better with people, have better connections, be in places where the energy, where I feel comfortable and safe, and remove myself if I don't. Having the confidence to do that, it all kind of builds as part of a healing and recovery process. I found just having to be willing to do that, to accept that it's a growth process. It's a huge part of healing. We have to be open to the longevity of a healing process, that we will change if we're going to heal, if we're going to recover, we will be different. And that the consequences of that might be unmasking, it might be letting go of ways that we've pleased people for a long time. And if people are used to being pleased by us and we suddenly displease them, there'll be a consequence. But we deal with that as it comes up. We have to be prepared to deal with the consequences. And when we do that, we start to see the truth of people. We start to see who they really are. We start to see their wounds. We start to see how they're reacting in different scenarios. And I found it's like a very symbiotic process that as we learn to accept ourselves, we also have to learn to accept other people and the truth of where they are, how they are, who they are, how the interaction between us is, especially when we're talking about healing a wound, like what we're talking about here with bullying and rejection and things, because actually a lot of the underlying stuff could have come from our family dynamics, our childhood, our schooling. It could be present in our work environments, in our friend groups. Often these patterns just repeat. And when we go along with them without changing things, everyone's comfortable. It's all just kind of playing out. And once we start to notice and then we change in it, it changes the interaction. And that makes people uncomfortable and things happen. But that is the process of recovery. We can do all of this by gaining skills, by growing, learning, trying new things, especially the skills that we share on Love School that I find really, really important that are part of shared work on life design. Learning how to show up for ourselves and learning how to adapt and create a lifestyle that works for us from more of a systems or ecosystem mindset, which is what we can really support with. I found that once you can see the dynamic, especially like in maybe like I say, it's sometimes it might be very obvious, and we might start embarking on a journey like this, a healing journey like this, because of obvious things that have happened. And as we grow and get more insight and learn more, we start to see how these dynamics are actually in a lot of other relationships or relationships we might not have seen, which is all part of the shadow work as that information emerges and we're exploring more. When we try to change, which is us growing, which is us trying new things, expanding our energy, if you like, becoming a bigger, better person. Other people might not like that. And I've noticed, especially in this sort of wounded dynamic, that as that happens, people will try to belittle you again. So it might actually invite in more stuff. And all that does, if you see that as a growth opportunity, even when it might hurt, even when it might still be a bit sensitive, just bring the awareness into it, feel into it, see what the truth of it is, allow it to pass, be present with it, is where we get these nuggets of wisdom and where we can grow past beyond it. So I now see any of that sort of targeting or any sort of, especially if someone's trying to belittle you, as a sign of my growth, as a sign of my evolution, not to make it, like I say, a strongly positive or negative thing. Like I talked about in the first videos, it's not about in the second video, sorry, it's not about making it about them, like projecting, or even making it about me, internalizing. It's just like, something is happening here that gives me an opportunity now to make a choice, to learn something, to respond differently, to try something, to experiment, and therefore grow. We kind of diffuse the whole dynamic by not needing approval, not needing other people's approval, not even needing our own approval, just allowing things to unfold as they will. And although there are certain points in the journey where we might be seeking approval in different ways, like self-validation and stuff, we might have to approve of ourselves in certain points. As we go through the process, I've learned that you can let go of that more and more, and you just accept, well, that's just, I trust my responses now, I trust my intuition now, I trust in being authentic, and therefore I don't need to approve of myself through that process. It's like part of a recovery journey. So all of this might emerge if you are embarking on a similar path and you're wanting to heal these wounds. I found one of the cores is just being authentic. It's just being vulnerable, admitting that we're vulnerable when we are, expressing ourselves in the way we want to, when we can, and then literally navigating with the reality of the consequences that comes up. And those are like key lessons that I found on my journey, is like this grapple of authenticity and being aligned with what is actually happening, being present and not getting caught up in the past, not getting caught up with past stories or future fears and projections, just being real, authentic in the moment, dealing with the consequences as they arise and making choices. And the more that I have gone through a healing recovery journey, the more I can do that in my interactions with others and in different environments. If you find this really helpful and you actually want to dive into this a little bit deeper, we have some really helpful, supportive content at Love School. I will link in the description below. We've got blogs and things if you're a reader and you like to read that are obviously free that you can access. We have an amazing little course called Being Yourself in Relationships that would be a great start if you really want to start looking at this. And it's all about how to be yourself in relationships, looking at your authenticity, how that might have been impacted by others in the past, and different ways that we can show up for ourselves and respond to other people in relationships. That'll be a really, really helpful support. I would really recommend that if you want to begin this journey of healing and recovery in relationships, especially if you have relational trauma that's linked with like bullying or complex abuse, anything like that. It's a great place to start, is to start looking at nurturing yourself in your authenticity, whatever that might be at the time. We have a whole bundle though that is dedicated to really deep diving into this. Being yourself in relationship is part of it. The bundle is called Healing for Connection. In that, we explore all sorts of aspects of a self-growth journey so that you can heal relational wounds and connect better with others more authentically, and like build that power, like we're saying, that confidence to just be yourself and be more resilient as you're dealing with the people and in different environments. Healing for Connection includes Being Yourself in Relationships course. There's a guided process of looking at how you like to be loved, what you like from relationships. We look at deep shadow work wounds, the way you might have been conditioned or the meaning you've given, where these root causes of relationship wounds can come from, inner child wounds and things. There is so much in there. It would really help you unpack these wounds, and I can really, really recommend that. So I'll link all that up. Please go over there. So thank you for watching this series, for watching all the videos of this series. I also want to give you a link to the masterclass we have, which is an Introduction to Shadow Work masterclass. I'm going to dive into what shadow work is, how to do it, how to understand it, so you can start experimenting with it yourself, and so you can see the impact of this really powerful healing tool. And as part of that masterclass, we look at the pillars of healing. So we look at what are the core pillars of how it feels, what we need to be focused on to recover, to find healing in ourselves, so that when we are connecting with others or connecting out in the world, we don't have so many vulnerabilities and we feel more whole in ourselves. I'll link all that below. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. There will be more series like this to follow. There'll be other videos that are support linked to this topic that will support you if you're interested, completely for free. Get over to Love School. Like I said, there's loads of blogs. We link all of the free resources there, and the courses are amazing for a deep dive. So please do join us over there. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next videos.